Previously
Coming back
on
until it's
Ballz.
100% right. It's something that's been bothering him for a long time now, ever since he lost at Wimbledon. And I think he needs to take the necessary precautions to get it fixed up once and for all.
Yeah, and wise move really. I think how old is Rafa now? He's sort of what, late 20s? Where is he?
Mid-20s.
Yeah.
So, he's still got plenty of time ahead of him. But in fact, I posted something yesterday. The guys at Hawkeye were following on as to how much tennis the respective players have played this year. And we had a look at a guy like Roger Federer in comparison to Djokovic and Nadal. And just because of the way that somebody like Federer plays, he spends so much less time on the court and covers something like 20 kilometers less this year already than somebody like Nadal. So just the style of tennis that Rafa plays is so demanding on his body. And, it's going to take its toll through the course of his career.
And he's a more abrasive player. I mean, would you say, would that be the right word? He's an abrasive player than a Federer?
Definitely. I mean, even from a technical standpoint, he's not nearly as technical sound as some of the other guys. So his body does take a pounding, your joints take a pounding, and he has to be physical because it's just the nature of the way he plays. So, over the course of time, and also given that he likes to play so much, he's not the kind of player who can take 4 weeks off and then just bounce back into a tournament like Federer can.
Yeah.
He's a guy who needs to spend hours on the practice court to feel good about himself and then play lots of tennis matches to build up the confidence.
And I mean, sort of trying to go and say, okay, look, I'll see what happens at the Open and give it a bash. It's a risky thing. I mean, regardless, he's still young enough. And I mean, in tennis terms, you start getting to 30, there's younger guys coming up and starting to challenge you as well. If something goes wrong or he aggravates it even more, he might affect him for a year to 2 years down the line. Suddenly he's in his late 20s and he's still recovering from the same injury. Then the pressure starts to pick up on you, and you're always playing catch up. So probably a very wise move for him to say, listen, let me just wait till I'm 100% now, and even if it takes me a few more months, at least I'm going to be back. And I'm not suddenly going to be 29 years old and still dealing with the same injury.
You're 100% right, Darren. And he's made sensible decisions like this before. Of course, remember, I think it was in 2010 when he pulled out of Wimbledon.
Yeah.
He was defending champion, so it was one of the toughest decisions he ever had to make in his career. As was the decision not to play, the Olympics a couple of weeks ago. Of course, he was supposed to be the flag bearer for Spain, and he turned that down again. He said what a difficult decision that was. So, he's got the right mentality, I think, with Uncle Tony guiding him. They make astute decisions. They think long term. It's not always short term thinking. So, I think for his sake, he's made the right decision, and I think it's probably not as big of a letdown if he were to miss some of the other majors. He's won the US Open, but it's never been the happiest hunting ground for him. It's always a grind for him to win there. So I'm sure he's not feeling hugely disappointed as if it was, say, Wimbledon or the French Open or perhaps even the Australian Open.
So
that's my take on it.
All right. So who benefits most out of him not being there from a point of view of your sort of top three? Who's smiling the most? Is it Federer? Is it Djokovic? Is it Murray? Is there anyone else there that'll have even a bigger smile because there's no Rafa?
Well, I think it's Fed, right?
Yeah.
Because, he's the one who causes Roger the most hassles, doesn't matter what the surface is. And, of course, Roger's got a pretty decent record against the likes of Novak and Murray, despite the fact he lost to him now at the Olympics. So I think Roger's going to be the happiest of the lot. Of course, I don't know if you saw it written at home, but Roger actually sent him a letter yesterday saying, how disappointed he was, wishes him well, and it was a really cool thing of Roger to do. So, obviously they've had a rivalry that's transcended the sport of tennis, but still there's so much mutual respect between those two guys. But whilst on that topic, there's a guy who's on Twitter who posts under the name Pseudo-Fed. Okay, and obviously the news was out about Federer writing this letter, and Pseudo-Fed has taken it upon himself to write his own version of the letter to Nadal, and I'll try and send you the link to it. It is hilarious. This guy's got a wonderful sense of humor, and I'll try and send it to you and maybe post it up there, and you guys will have a really good laugh about it. And something to the effect that take your time in getting healthy. We love you so much. Don't rush back. And Rio's only 4 years away, 2016. So it's along those sort of lines. It's brilliantly written.
All right. Well, look, even if you just post it up, put a link up on Twitter and just copy at Ballz Radio, you know where we are. And we'll retweet that as well. So our Twitter followers can also read that. Look forward to seeing it. Rob, just one final thing. I don't know how much you've been following on this one, but the other news, obviously, South Africa, obviously crucial Davis Cup time coming up. No Kevin Anderson.
Yeah,
Wow.
Guys are pretty disappointed back at home. I haven't had a chance. Kevin lost early here. I only came in here Monday, and he was pretty much out of here. He lost on Sunday, in fact, to James Blake. And he hasn't had a good summer. And I know he's had problems with his knee over the last 8 months. So that's been of a big concern to him. And he's, after the US Open, he's taken some time out to try and rehab it even more. That was the excuse that he gave to the press as far as not wanting to play Davis Cup is concerned. So if that is the case, I think you have to respect it. South Africans are very patriotic individuals, so it's difficult for them to forgive sometimes when stuff like this happens. But you've got to remember, Darren, and this is an individual sport, and at the end of the day, Kevin's paychecks come from doing well as an individual.
Absolutely.
So if he has to go and play Davis Cup and he aggravates something more, ends up being out for another 3 months, at the end of the day, that could cost him something like $150,000, $200,000 if he's playing well.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep that in mind. And on the flip side, I think it's a good example for some of the young guys to step up to the plate now. Skoltz is a good guy from you'll remember Color Skoltz.
Yeah.
The great rugby player. His son's a decent tennis player.
Okay,
so
we
he's
must
been
chat
drafted
to him.
into the team.
We must try and get hold of him and chat to him on the show. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So he's a hell of a talent, and unlike his dad, this guy's like 6'2", big game. He's at college in the States right now, so it's a perfect opportunity for a young guy like that to get international experience against Canada. Got some great players in Milos Round, who's just broken into the top 20. They got one of the best doubles guys that ever to play the game, and Daniel Nesta. So it's a good chance for him to measure his skills up against some of the best players in the sport.
I can understand disappointment. I mean, especially as it is a crucial game, but there's a difference between a sport and playing sport and national security. If it was an issue of national security, maybe then you can be upset with Kevin Anderson. But it's no different to what Rafa's done. I mean, Rafa pulled out of the Olympics to represent his country. A very good chance of getting a gold medal for Spain. For that very reason, is that he's there's an injury lurking there, and as we were talking a little earlier on, the same with Kevin. You aggravate that, as I say, that is his paycheck, that's his livelihood. I don't think Tennis South Africa are paying him a cent to campaign around the world. So in that case, that's his first priority in being a sport, and that is to make sure that he flies the flag for South Africa individually, because I think there's probably more value compared to where we are now in Davis Cup. Maybe if we were in the World Group, different story, but where we are now in Davis Cup, there's more value from a South African tennis point of view to have Kevin Anderson pushing towards a top 10 place in the world and competing at majors and Grand Slams in his future, than playing in one Davis Cup tie, as crucial as this tie is for South Africa's progress in that competition.
No, it's actually very well put. It's very well put. And and it's individual sport as well. I kept going back to that. It's not like you're sitting on the bench at Man United and still getting a paycheck every week.
Please don't bring that up again. Why do I have to hear Man United all day today? Since I woke up, I've heard nothing but Man United.
No, I heard that Robin van Persie actually had failed the medical at Man United. I don't know if you saw that.
Carrying Arsenal teammates on his back for too many years. Yeah. It's not far from the truth. Yeah, I'm sure you did. What are you, a Man U supporter as well?
Definitely not. I'm
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yay! Go Robbie!
Shame, Rob. I thought you were an intelligent guy.
Excuse you.
Well,
how many trophies do you have again, Dan?
Happy Europa League. Well, a lot more in the last 10 years than you guys have had.
Whatever.
Yeah. Happy Europa League this year. Did you guys make that, by the way?
I don't know.
Only just.
We have, Robbie.
Robert, it's always nice catching up with you, but enjoy the rest of the Cincinnati Masters, and we look forward to catching up with you in future. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Always a pleasure, buddy. Take care, everybody.
Ciao, Rob.
Bye now.
There's Rob Koenig joining us on Ballz Visual Radio today. Always fantastic chatting to him about tennis. Do you know that when we were talking about Ballz Radio in the beginning, before we started, we almost had a no tennis policy?
No way. And look at you now.
Rob Koenig has turned my entire thought around that completely around. There was a time I just found tennis to be completely and utterly boring.
We the best on 3. 1, 2, 3. We the best.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays live on Ballz.co.za. Ballz.co.za.